What is going on with Spider-Man No Way Home? In case you've been living under a rock, or just have a life, because I'm assuming not everyone just sits at home waiting for Spider-Man No Way Home news to drop like I do every weekend. But the amount of potential information that is dropping from this movie, Spider-Man No Way Home is shaping up to be potentially the most spoiled movie in cinema history. With that in mind, I will give a little spoilers disclaimer, even though this is a news catch-up update story. I will give a spoiler for Spider-Man No Way Home just in case this stuff all ends up to be true. A lot of this movie has really leaked online through sources and news outlets that it's actually kind of boggling my mind. I thought we would just recount the timeline of how all of this started. Back in October when it was confirmed that Jamie Foxx was returning to Spider-Man 3 to play Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Followed up by an Instagram post that was quickly deleted that Jamie Foxx used to explain that he was not going to be blue this time around. He also featured a picture of 3 other Spider-Men staring up into an Electro face in the sky, which does kind of look like a storyboard concept image, but as I said, that Instagram post was quickly deleted, but not before the internet could capture it and put it out there forever. And those 3 Spider-Men in Jamie Foxx's Instagram post got everyone thinking, are Tobey and Andrew coming back? That's when Fandom Wire dropped that they had sources that claim that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were indeed confirmed to be in Spider-Man 3. I've already done a video on that. You can click up there if you want to check it out. So all of this caught on like wildfire, the internet going crazy with their Tobey and Andrew speculations and excitement. And that's when a Sony rep came in and tried to shut the party down, but he did so with very poor words as they stated regarding the Tobey and Andrew speculation in Spider-Man 3 that those castings were not confirmed. Which naturally got the internet thinking, why not just say no? If you're not going to just say no, we're going to assume they're in it. And as of yet, Sony has never come out again and made a statement about Tobey and Andrew in these movies. Therefore, the Tobey and Andrew speculation continued to rail on and continues to go on to this day. And fans have not had short of evidence to choose from Tobey Maguire showing up to costume fittings looking like he's in peak Spider-Man shape again, Andrew Garfield stunt double tagging Tom Holland stunt double on an Instagram post as it appears that the two are working on a movie of some kind together, all the way to a crew member who worked on Spider-Man No Way Home posting a picture of the crew member t-shirt with an Andrew Garfield looking Spider-Man hanging off of what appears to be Doc Ock's arm. All of this and more have fueled fan speculations for months now. Jump to December where we get another bombshell that Doc Ock, Alfred Molina from Spider-Man 2, Tobey's era, is returning to Spider-Man 3 as well. Now this was probably a bigger one than even Jamie Foxx's Electro. I remember when this one dropped, this was the big like, holy crap moment. Something multiverse is definitely happening with Spider-Man 3. Adding to the fact that not too long before Alfred Molina was attached to the project, it was announced that Benedict Cumberbatch was coming back as Doctor Strange in Spider-Man 3. Doctor Strange deals with the multiverse. Alfred Molina's from Spider-Man 2 are completely different Spider-Man movie. The pieces were starting to get put together in fans' heads. And fans' theories only got bigger once Alfred Molina was doing an interview for his movie Promising Young Woman, and he dropped some Spider-Man 3 details. And not just little tidbits, he dropped some major bombshells on fans, stating, "It was wonderful. It was very interesting going back after 17 years to play the same role. Given that in the intervening years, I now have 2 chins, a waddle, crow's feet, and a slightly dodgy lower back." In their early conversations, Molina said Watts told him that the movie will pick up Doc Ock's story from that moment in the river, which in a franchise that includes multiverses, time travel, and divergent timelines seems plausible enough. Molina went even further to say that when he asked the director how exactly they were going to be bringing Doc Ock back since he died in 2004's Spider-Man 2, he quotes John Watts as saying, "He just looked at me and said, 'Did you see what we did to Bob Downey Jr. and Sam Jackson?'" Sounds like John Watts is indicating that there's going to be some de-aging to Doc Ock done in this movie. Perhaps to make him look like 2004's Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2. Of course, once this Doc Ock news dropped online, it was impossible to shut the fans up. But starting in February, the cast started to try and do so as Tom Holland was on Jimmy Fallon and he totally denied that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to be in Spider-Man 3.
Your Spider-Man predecessors, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, might be making a cameo in this movie.
I am Spider-Man, and I've read the script from beginning to the end, so it would be a miracle if they could have kept that from me. Yeah. But at the moment, there is no cameo from the 2 boys.
But the fans know that Tom has had some issues in the past, spoiling some stuff, not keeping his mouth all the way shut. So they didn't really take Tom at his word. They kind of just saw it as, oh, look at Tom growing up. He's learning not to spoil the movies. Enter Andrew Garfield, as in May when Andrew Garfield was on an interview on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. He was straightforward asked if he was going to be in Spider-Man 3. And the answer that he gave to that question, well, Andrew, it may not have been the best way to convince us that you're not in the movie.
For the record, my friend, on a stack of whatever you have there, you are not, as of this taping, in or have any knowledge of being in the next Spider-Man movie. This is the unequivocal yes-no answer.
I did not get a call.
Liar! A couple weeks later, it is reported through the Disney Insider that the VFX people that worked on the Sam Raimi trilogy as well as the Mark Webb trilogy are coming to work on this Spider-Man No Way Home movie. Important to keep in mind that these VFX artists allegedly have not worked on a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie before Spider-Man No Way Home. Coincidence?
I think not!
So pile all that on, and then we hit this past weekend when Jeff Snyder over at Collider, which is a very reliable source for entertainment news, seems to have a source close to him that has confirmed that the villain in Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be none other than the Green Goblin from the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. Yeah, the Norman Osborn that got impaled by his own glider at the end of Spider-Man is apparently going to be the main villain of Tom Holland's Spider-Man No Way Home. This set off a massive chain of news outlets now reporting that apparently the villains of Spider-Man 3 are going to be building up to a Sinister Six consisting of Green Goblin from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, Sandman from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, Rhino from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, what? The Lizard from The Amazing Spider-Man, Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, and Jamie Foxx's Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. How on earth is this going to work? Well, also this weekend, the boss at Sony, Sanford Pinich, did an interview where he was asked about the Venom verse over at Sony, and here's what he had to say. We don't really think of our 900 characters as the Spideyverse. We have a Marvelverse. He seems a little condescending there. We have 900 characters. We have more than a Spideyverse. We also have a Marvelverse. Moving on. The volume of characters that we have, wait until you see this next Venom. You don't miss Spider-Man. But this is where it gets really interesting because the boss at Sony kind of starts, in my opinion, to show his hand a little bit of what they're planning on doing with Spider-Man in the future. There actually is a plan. I think now maybe it's getting a little more clear for people where we're headed, and I think when No Way Home comes out, even more will be revealed. The great thing is we have this very excellent relationship with Kevin. There's an incredible sandbox there to play with. We want those MCU movies to be absolutely huge because that's great for us and our Marvel characters. And I think that's the same thing on their side. But we have a great relationship. There's a lot of opportunities I think that are going to happen. So it is no secret that Sony wants Spider-Man to be in their Venomverse, and that's what I believe they're trying to work out with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and trying to get Kevin Feige to Sony are trying to get their little greedy hands and they want to be connected to the MCU in some kind of way. And this actually dates back all the way to 2019 when Spider-Man was taken out of the MCU. Remember that horrible weekend or week, whatever it was? And Marvel Studios and Sony were able to come to an agreement where they were able to bring Spider-Man back into the MCU for another movie and I think one more team-up movie. But it was in an interview that Kevin Feige did after Spider-Man was brought back into the MCU where he said this. Spider-Man is a powerful icon and hero whose story crosses all ages and audiences around the globe. He also happens to be the only hero with the superpower to cross cinematic universes. So as Sony continues to develop their own Spideyverse, you never know what surprises the future might hold. I think that all this stuff, especially if what's coming out of Spider-Man No Way Home is true, I think it's very telling of how Sony is working to get Spider-Man into the Venomverse by connecting him through a multiverse. By having these villains somehow, I don't know how they're going to do this in Spider-Man No Way Home. If they can get all these villains from the Amazing Spider-Man and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man universes into Spider-Man No Way Home, that is Sony's in to connect this Spider-Man to their larger Spider-Man universe. Because since they own the rights to those movies, they can put any character from those movies that they wanted to into the Venomverse. It's really Tom Holland's Spider-Man that they're trying to get a hold on. And by doing this, by having him connected to their movies, even through this multiverse way, it connects the Venomverse even ever so slightly to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, I'm all for Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire showing up in Spider-Man No Way Home. That alone pretty much sets them up for Sony being able to bring Tom Holland into whatever Sony movie Spider-Man related that they want to bring Spider-Man into. But when you start adding all of these other villains that this Tom Holland Spider-Man has never interacted with and doesn't have a history with, when you bring them into this movie, not only does it start to sound incredibly cluttered, this is 6 villains in one movie in Tom Holland Spider-Man, where we're still growing his Spider-Man into his own Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This news coming out from this weekend about the villains all coming into Spider-Man No Way Home is starting to make me a little bit nervous for Spider-Man No Way Home. It starts to feel as if Sony might be doing their Sony Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3 thing, where they're like, we want this in there, we need this in there, we got our own plans doing this, so filmmaker, don't do what you're doing, do what we want you to do. I really hope that's not the case. I hope Kevin Feige and the Marvel Studios are able to avoid that as much as possible. And if this is Kevin Feige's idea and Marvel Studios' idea, I have more faith in them than I do in Sony that they could possibly pull this off. But it even seems like a huge feat for them. I just don't want Spider-Man No Way Home to be a mess of a movie. On the flip side of that, if they do pull this off, this could be a really fun Spider-Man experience that connects all the Spider-Man movies together. Which I think in a concept, if the execution's done right, that could be pretty cool. This movie is starting to sound just incredibly bonkers, and I can't even picture what this movie is going to be if this is indeed the plot. Once again, none of this has been confirmed by Sony, none of this has been confirmed by Marvel Studios. Heck, none of this has even been confirmed by Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield. Tobey Maguire has yet to speak out, by the way. Whether this is true or not, we're going to find out in December, or when a trailer finally drops for this movie and we get some idea of what Spider-Man 3 is even about. Until then, though, guys, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on Spider-Man No Way Home, all this news that's been breaking. Comment down below, let me know what you guys are thinking about this movie and how it's shaping out to look. If you like movies, TV, and all things entertainment, why don't you go on and click that subscribe button, click the like button, click the notification bell, all that YouTube stuff, so that you don't miss an upload, and I hope to see you guys again real soon. As always, guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video and checking out my channel. Once again, my name's Zachary Milne. Thank you for talking movies with me, and hope you have yourself a great day.